Omar, hi, it's great to see you, man. How
Hey,
are
Ioannis,
you?
how are you?
Good, yourself?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
It's
Surviving.
it's been a while, and
It has been a while. Yeah,
it's been interesting times we're living.
yeah.
But thank you for agreeing to this. You're the very first in what I hope is going to be a small series of hospitality stories. So it's champions of hospitality like yourself asking a series of very simple questions
Yeah.
and see where we go from there.
Okay.
So, but before we begin, tell us a little bit about your hospitality background.
So I guess hospitality has been in my blood, and I guess the last full-time role that I was in hospitality was the director of people development for Radisson Edwardian Hotels, and I was with Radisson well over 10 years, and since I left there, I've been I've been basically living in and out of hotels all over the world because of the work that I do. And I'm fortunate to kind of experience different levels of hospitality, different types of hospitality. When you think about staying in some really high-end hotels as opposed to staying in a resort type hotel, as opposed to staying in lifestyle hotels, boutique hotels, and budget hotels even.
Yeah.
And not just in the UK, but also throughout Europe and throughout the Middle East, whether it's in Dubai or whether it's in Saudi and Riyadh or whether it's in Qatar. So staying in hotels is where I'm sleeping, and then of course being a trainer, where do we deliver most of the training? In hotels.
So, so, so,
So
so you've always been in training and development in
yeah,
hospitality, pretty much.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you've been a trainer before that, haven't you? In sports, right?
Yeah, so my journey with people development started as a personal fitness trainer.
Brilliant. I'll come back to that. I've got a question maybe for that. Just tell us what is your most memorable moment in hospitality management over the years you worked in it. Is there one?
I think there's many memorable moments. Because you think about memorable moments to me is about in hospitality is the people that you meet.
Yeah.
And we're talking it's not the people that you work with, of course, because hospitality has such a diverse workforce. And when I think about hospitality, it's not just diverse culturally, ethnic backgrounds, age groups, knowledge, experience, education, gender differences. And it's just such a fruit salad. It's kind of like diving into a fruit salad. When there's lots and lots of different mixed fruits, it's just much tastier than just two types of fruit. So I think memorable experiences are very much around.
Or memorable person, the way you describe it. Maybe perhaps she's somebody who really changed the way you were thinking about the industry or really affected your thinking over the years.
Um, yeah, I guess who would I say is kind of got me to think different. There's a few people that kind of come to mind in terms of the different personalities. But I think one person that I think was really fun and interesting and very memorable to work with was the HR director, Beverly Stewart.
Okay, cool.
We had many what we called frothy coffees, and in the corner of the restaurants, where we were thinking about how do you really engage, how do you really reward, how do you recognize. So having this is the nice thing about hospitality. You have some really good people that you can work with, you really gel with, and are able to exchange different ideas. So I think that was a real positive relationship
Brilliant.
that is memorable for
I
me.
might have to track down Beverly and ask her for an interview as well.
Yeah,
You mentioned you were a personal fitness trainer. So,
yeah.
in your view, is hospitality related to sports in some ways? If yes, how?
I think the correlation I would make, or the comparison I would make. The fun thing about being on a gym floor or working in a health club is, again, it's the variety of customers, gym memberships, as opposed to the variety of hotel guests or restaurant, for that matter. So when we think about one of the wonderful things about working within hospitality is the people who you're exposed to.
Okay,
and both internally, but also from a guest perspective.
cool.
And I think, one of the early lessons I learned, on the gym floor was really how you interact with different people, different cultures, different backgrounds, different, it's, and the same thing when you come into the hospitality environment, you have that. Also, when you think about people who work in gyms, it tend to be, the customer facing the whole time. It's front of house, and so they're more energetic, more energized. They're ready to serve. They're ready, to deliver great service. And so there's those similarities. It's all about how do you serve people on the gym floor, or how do you just serve people in a restaurant, in a lobby. So I think there's definitely those similarities in terms of,
Brilliant.
yeah. I think that there's some good similarities there.
There's a lot of sweating on both professions.
Yeah, exactly. There definitely is a lot of sweating on both sides.
You're reminding me my days in waiting tables and the environment I used to work with. But I know you wrote a book called Cats and Dogs.
Yeah.
What is all that all about? Is it related to hospitality, or is it about cats and dogs, the animals?
So we were on a Radisson conference actually in Hong Kong. It was a Carlson conference, and that's where all the Radisson hotels globally get together for this annual GM conference. And being an avid reader, I went into a bookshop and I started reading this book on leadership. And in one chapter, it talked about the era of the dog and the era of the cat. So the 20th century is all about the era of the dog, and the 21st century is all about the era of the cat, and how leaders were, very dogmatic in the 20th century, very committee-driven, very, dictatorial, barked out all the orders. And the 21st century leaders now are starting to be different, and they're more cat-like. They have the characteristics of a cat. And so it was comparing that leadership. And that got me really thinking about how people behave. And, how people behave like cats and dogs. And so I started to kind of think about this in the context of, and originally it wasn't in when I remember teaching this as part of a leadership program within hospitality, where I was looking at the dogs within hospitality and the cats within hospitality, and looking at the different leaders. And when we think about Winston Churchill, the bulldog, and then you've got President Obama, or even let's keep it current, and we think about President Obama and we think about Trump. We've got Trump.
Don't go there.
Not to get political, but when you compare those two leaders, clearly Obama is the well-groomed cat, and is quite suave and sophisticated, and then you've got this dog of a Donald Trump. And it's not to say one is better than the other. Don't get me wrong. And so what I thought about was writing a book about which is the book, and I think I've got it somewhere.
You got a copy?
Oh, yeah, sure. Here it is.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
this is the book. So now it's leading.
Hold it a little bit back so it zooms. Yeah, there we go. Okay, leading cats and dogs in the workplace. That's the full title.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So can we buy it on Amazon, or where do we find it?
Yeah, no, I posted it. It's on Amazon, so it's available on Amazon, and in there it talks about. There is a case study in the back of the book, which is a hospitality case study, where I'm comparing two leaders within the hospitality, and I won't name them, but yes, I'm making the comparison of how this operations director was very dog-like in his approach towards leading and interacting with people, as opposed to another one who was very cat-like. So it's humorous. It's an easy way, and I guess I kind of wrote it because people wanted to better understand why someone did what they did.
Yeah.
So it's just a different spin on, when we think about Generation X, Generation Y, Millennials, Generation Z, and all, we have all these different, the boomers and all these different, and I thought, well, let's strip that away and let's just kind of look at this in the context of cats and dogs, because they are probably when we think about household pets, we either have a cat, we have a dog, or we have both. So we're very familiar with cats and dogs philosophy. And so I then started to look into that and started to look into sports and started looking into even, I remember one time when I was in the middle of writing the book and we were in Tesco's with my wife and she says, and I overheard a couple talking about lasagna.
Right.
And the guy was like, well, let's buy this lasagna. And the girl was like, no, let's buy Tesco Finest. Right? And I'm thinking, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because you've got a cat who wants Tesco Finest, and then you've got the dog, well, it's lasagna. Why do we need Tesco Finest? It's the same thing. And I'm thinking, it's typical. The dog just wants to eat. It doesn't matter. It's not so concerned with. And then, when it's funny because I kind of thought about that, and then I looked down, and you can do this. Go into the supermarket and look at the cat food compared to the dog food.
Right.
But the interest, and you have all these, gourmet meals for cats, because it appeals to the cat owner. But now the cat's owner, or the owners that own dogs who are cats, now want to have the same thing for their dog. So now they have Caesars in these nice little packages, So it's really interesting. So in the book, I kind of talk about the correlation between, Tesco Finest.
So do you think this sort of dimensional approach is still important, especially in a COVID times, hospitality time, or even hopefully post-COVID hospitality times?
Well, think about it. Yes, I didn't get it. So, I mean, there's two questions two thoughts that come to mind. First of all, we have this era of Book Hotel, exclusive luxury, personalized experience, which is all about the cats. A dog comes in, I just want a place to stay. Yeah, I want a place to rest my head. It's safe, it's clean, it's tidy, and I can get fed when I want to get fed. Great. But then you have the cats who come into the hotels, now who want to be stroked and want to be spoiled and want to have a personalized experience. And I think, the interesting thing now is, amongst where we are with this whole pandemic, is that, the dogs tend to hunker down.
Yeah.
They tend to pack together. So it's really interesting, how dogs have strength in numbers.
Yeah.
Cats are not bothered about that. When you think about how they, you have to go into a safari and look at the way hyenas hunt and look at the way a lion or lioness hunt.
So do you think, especially now that we're entering a new, if I can call it a new digital era, no matter whether you're a dog, where you come in packs, or whether you're a cat, where you're solo, do you think that the whole development and training in hospitality, the delivery of it perhaps is changing because it needs to, or where are we?
I think it's going to be a big challenge for training because, if we stay with the metaphor of cats and dogs and we think about, people want to feel together, the dogs will probably miss the classroom more.
Yeah. Because
it's that sense of connection. It's that I want to be in a classroom. I want to do the group exercises. I want to huddle around a flip chart. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, the cats are going, well, I want an individual experience. Yeah. So when I'm interacting with you, I want to be able to personally connect with you. And that becomes challenging when you're trying to write into the chat and you have to continually mention names and please write in the chat, ask your questions. So I definitely think it's in the context of training cats and dogs, there is definitely a difference.
I think that's some wise words that some of us academics also must heed to, because we exceedingly going into digital delivery, really.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the biggest issues our industry is facing today? I mean, there's the obvious one, but I want to think more that let's not just talk about COVID, but what, because of it, perhaps what can be what are the biggest issues in your mind?
I think the one big issue that comes to my mind is it going to create a more disassociated service level?
Right.
And what I mean by that is, Ioannis, is that when we think about the technology now that's coming into play, and AI technology, and how now you can chat with chatbots.
Yeah.
So do you now need to call down to concierge and ask, where can I book a restaurant? Do you now need to call room service or housekeeping, or could you do it with a chatbot? And I know for a fact now that's happening within hotels, where now you can just interact, just like Siri.
So the human interaction.
Can you please order me a burger and fries and a Coke?
So you're saying that the human interactivity is getting limited by the day?
Yes. And then you've got the whole thing of being scared. I mean, I know that experience because I recently went to stay in a hotel in Manchester, and it was very awkward because you had these, people were wearing masks, and the concierge couldn't take your bags because he didn't touch them. So then, how do you create personalized service when you're social distancing?
Yeah.
And so everything becomes quite so distant. And when you want to go down to the spa, and you can only go 2 by 2 or whatever that is, and if you want to go in the pool, there's a limited. So I think in the sense of personalization, how do you personalize a guest experience in a social distancing context?
So if we move on to the positive, what do you think might be the most positive thing that has emerged because of the current situation?
I think the use of technology and the way in which we interact. I think the plus side. There's when I mentioned the fact that if you want to put in a request to housekeeping, that you want extra towels in your room. Well, if you can just pick up your phone and press the app and say housekeeping, could I have a couple more towels? That saves time. Huge amount of time. It saves the fact that you have to have someone answer the phone. So I think there's an accelerated aspect of how do we deliver service, how do we utilize service.
Thank you. And just one last question. I don't want to keep you too long, but what advice? A lot of young people now, especially our final years, about to graduate, or master students who are going to graduate in the summer. What advice would you give for young people graduating with a hospitality-related degree?
I would say find a hospitality brand that fits your values, that fits you, your character, your personality. The wonderful thing about hospitality now is we have so many different brands, and it's about how do you go out there and connect with a brand. Don't just go and work for any hotel. Find a brand that you can connect with. Look at their values. What do they post online? And go, well, these are the values we believe in. This is the way in which we work. And you got to think, do those fit with me? Do I want to be associated with that? Because then you're going to find it's just going to be a nicer place to work.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Omar. Thank you for your time and your wisdom. Really great to see you again. And hopefully we'll get in touch soon again. So stay safe, stay well.
Yes, you too.
And thank you. Goodbye.
Right, take care. See you. Bye.